Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and a delight always to have John Mittendorf in the studio with us. John is our in-house researcher apologist. He also worked with Answers in Genesis, and we've been talking about for several weeks now. It all sparked from the movie Noah, and out of that came all the questions about the flood. What happened to the water? Where did it come from? Where did it go? What can we learn from it?
How big was the ark?
No,
how to hold all the animals?
How to do all the animals, all those things. By the way, we're going to give away some items, and let me just kind of whet your appetite. What'd you bring here, John?
Well, first of all, I've got Noah's Ark, Thinking Outside the Box, which is an outstanding book, and they're good coffee table books.
Yeah.
And this explains a lot of stuff that we've talked about so far, Perry, and a lot more.
All right.
And then number 2, which is another good coffee table book, which is Noah's Ark, which is also a great book. And with that, I think we're going to include Ray Comfort's DVD on Noah and the Ark, which he just came out with probably about a month ago, something like that.
So be listening. Coming up in a few moments here, we'll tell you, we'll take some calls and we'll tell you what callers will win one of the books and the DVD.
Right.
All right. Also, the notes. The notes are done, and he's got part 3 here. Where did the flood water come from, and where did it go?
Right.
So 1, 2, and 3 are all done, right?
Well, actually, that's just a summary of the big set of notes here, which is the 15-pager. By the way, Perry,
15 pages.
I've got to thank the people in the Dove audience. Your people are the best.
Yes.
You know? But since we've been doing this series, I have been deluged with emails on people wanting the notes, but telling me stories on how they've used the notes and been able to share them with other people. It's been outstanding.
Wonderful.
It's been outstanding, yeah.
All right. You can get a set of notes here or his
my
people.
Yeah,
my people.
You know, his people rejoice at gmail.com.
All right. His people rejoice at gmail.com. We should put that up at the bottom of the screen.
Yep. So just write me. I'd be happy to send them out.
All right. He can email them back to his people rejoice at gmail.com, and then he'll send you a whole file on these notes, and they're outstanding.
Right.
All right. So
let's cover 4 big questions this morning.
Where did the water come from? I mean, 40 days of rain still wouldn't cover the earth, would it?
Well, you know, God could have done it in 5 minutes if he wanted to.
Oh, well. Okay.
But why 40? And we'll talk about that. But a couple of the biggest questions on the flood is, first of all, and we covered this last time, how could the ark have held all those animals? And we covered that.
Yeah, right.
But today I basically want to cover the other biggies on the flood, and that is, where did the flood waters come from? That's a good question. Where did they go? That's another good question.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, are there evidences today for a global flood?
Can you say Grand Canyon?
Because that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And then also, what did we learn from the flood? You know, it happened, but have we learned from it? Or are there lessons to be learned from the flood?
Well, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man.
The Son of Man is exactly right. Yeah. So why don't we start out where the floodwaters come from?
Where did they come from?
And let's go basically to Genesis, the 7th chapter, verses 6 through 16. And there's a couple of key phrases that I want to focus in on. And then we'll get to the high-tech scientific stuff, because this is really cool. This is the phrase that's used in Genesis 7. All the fountains of the great deep burst open. And when you look at the Hebrew in Webster's dictionary, that word burst means to suddenly come apart violently and explode. And as you and I have talked about before, that to a large degree, a lot of scholars think that when the flood started, and I'll talk about this in just a second, as the earth split, and what that means, is that a lot of scholars feel that basically when the flood started, that God was reversing creation, or taking the earth back to its original state, which was water, all water. Wow. The earth started out as water. And if you look at the earth, the way it's made, we have the core, then you have the mantle, which is about 1,800 miles, then you have the crust, that's which we live on. The crust is about 5 miles thick, I think. And so what we have down underneath the crust in the mantle, they're not really sure. In fact, University of Missouri, their scientific department has recently isolated a large body of water underneath the crust they feel is as large as the Arctic Ocean. So we don't know really how much water is really down there, but the bottom point, Perry, is that if the earth started out as water and then God starts to reverse the process, so to speak, that the amount of water it would have taken to have flooded the earth wouldn't have been a big deal. Now the question is, okay, well then how did he do that? See, and that's a great question. So basically what happens is, when we read the text, all the fountains of the great deep burst open, and then it started to rain. And this is basically what they feel happened.
Is the water down below hot?
It was when the ocean floor split open and the water fell down to the hot magma that's down underneath that, which is the core of the earth, is exactly right. But what they feel is that when it says the fountains of the deep burst open, violently exploded, burst forth, they feel the continental rift, which is like a seam going around a baseball, that the earth split open. And as the sea floor, which is now floating on top of the mantle, dove down to the mantle, the cold water would have gone down with it. Now this is all around the earth. As that went down, as that approaches 7,000 degrees, which is close to the core of the earth, what would have happened?
Well, steam.
It would have violently exploded back up as supersonic jets back up into the atmosphere of this earth, which would have then returned as rain or water. Exactly right. Now, is there any proof of that? Well, I'm so glad you
asked that question.
I'm just so glad you asked me that question. And yes, there is. You know, science has a lot of good aspects of it, but science has now discovered, using the same technology that they use when they go around and they use sonic waves down through the strata of the earth. Where is oil? Where is gas? That as they look down through the crust and then the mantle, down by the core, what do you expect that they found? And they found large portions of the seafloor still down there by the core of the earth.
Wow.
Yeah. Which tends to prove that the ocean seafloor dove down when the earth split open. And you know what's interesting about that, Perry, is that when they discovered that, that is another reason why the earth is young and not old. Because if the earth was old, the seafloor that dove down by the core, if it's about 7,000 degrees down there, if the earth is millions and millions of years old, it would have been gone. They would have melted.
Wow.
But they're still there. In huge, well, immense pieces. It's really tough to describe.
Wow.
So yeah, so that is a classic example. Also, they feel that's basically when plate tectonics started, and that you had a lot of volcanic activity during that time. So they also feel that plate tectonics would have happened. You'd have had earthquakes. You'd have had volcanic activity. That the ocean floor, when you had the water diving down, then you would have had magma coming up. It would have taken the seafloor and it would have raised it, which would have taken the oceans and inundated the then known earth.
Oh, okay.
70% of the earth is water, 30% is land. So water is not really a problem. You know, where are we going to get the water to flood the earth?
All right, so
that's basically where the water came from.
From the splitting of the core,
right,
creating the explosion of the steam, and, and that going up, creating the clouds, down comes the rain.
And the seafloor coming up, which would have raised the ocean levels, which would have helped inundate the then known earth.
Okay.
Okay.
So before we leave and go as to then what happened, but any idea how long that took?
About 150 days for that. Of course, then it rained for 40 days. So it's possible that maybe if and by the way, you have to stop and think that the Bible doesn't specifically say it did not rain until the flood, but it does say in Genesis, the first chapter, that the earth was watered by a mist. And so out of that, you can surmise that you didn't see rain until the flood.
Okay.
That is a correct assumption. Now maybe it did, but most likely it did not. It did not.
All right. All right. Where did the water go then after the flood?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
So it all came up. It all came down. We got the whole thing flooded out. Something had to happen down below where it all kind of came back together.
It's also the general consensus, Perry, that the mountains at that time, because the Bible says all the high hills and mountains, that the mountains at that time were a lot lower than they are today. Now, Mount Everest is, I think, 26,000 feet thereabouts. And they also feel that when plate tectonics started at that time, which, by the way, in continental drift, plate tectonics, they feel at that time there was one landmass. We've talked about that before. And then at the flood, the landmass has started to split. Secular science will agree with continental drift.
Okay.
They will agree with that. The difference is that the creationists think that it happened fast. Evolutionists or science think that it happened slow. That's the only difference, but they will agree with that.
So you take the west coast of Europe and the east coast of the United States.
You put them, they fit almost perfectly, and there's also a huge coal mine that goes through Pennsylvania that takes up in either France or England again. It's the exact same mine. And they can tell by the mineral content of the coal. It's exactly the same coal. Yeah.
Wow.
And so as the continents split, then, and of course this is huge plate tectonic activity, and of course the ocean floor came up, the water would have come up over the then known environment, and they feel that the mountains at that time were probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15,000 feet. Now plate tectonics, when that happened, as the continents started to move, as the continents moved around, as some continents bumped into the, you kind of have to think about this for a second. When you think about continents bumping into each other, what would have happened is called uplift. As one continent would have moved into another, it would have shoved the landmass up, which would have given you today your high mountains. And basically your high mountains are coastal. Coastal.
All right, let me take a quick break. We're wrapping our series up about Noah and the flood and where the water came from, where did it go. We still haven't answered the question where did it go, but we're soon to do that.
We'll come back
with John Mittendorf in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Paulina and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back with John Mittendorf, and we're talking about the flood and where did the water come from, where did the water go. By the way, all of these notes are available, and you can go to hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Or here
at the Dove, and we'll be glad to make a set of these notes for you. They're about 15 pages, but John will email you a set at hispeoplerejoice.com, or you can come by here at the Dove. All right, we know where the water came from.
Right.
Where did it go?
And there was a lot of it too, right?
Well, it covered the earth.
Where'd the water go?
Yeah.
This one's easy. This is what Psalms 104, 6 through 9 says. The watery deep, which by the way is the same phrase as found in Genesis 1:2. Okay. Covered it like a garment. The waters reached above the mountains. Your shout made the waters retreat. At the sound of your thunderous voice, they hurried off. As the mountains rose up and the valleys went down to the place you appointed for them, you set up a boundary for them that they should not cross, so that they would not cover the earth again. So where'd all the water go?
Return back to where it came from.
Right back into the oceans where it came from originally.
Wow. And so did God open up the core and let it go back down? Is that what happened?
Well, no, you don't have to open up the core, because if you'd opened up the core again, you'd have probably had the same thing happen as the water. But all you had to do is just have the ocean basins retreat to sink down, which is what that verse says. Yeah. As the ocean bases sank down, then the water would have retreated. In fact, when we talk about the 6 evidences for a global flood, they can tell you which way the waters came across the continents to go back to the ocean basins. They came from northeast to southwest across this continent back into the Pacific Ocean. On this section.
Northeast to southwest.
Northeast to southwest, right. How do they know that? It's called varves, V-A-R-V-E-S, and they're ripple marks that are left in the sandstone or the rock layers. And it looks like a, you know, the old washing boards? Yeah. That's the way it looks like, and you can tell which way the water was going.
All right, now we have evidences of that in eastern Oregon and down in, is it Oregon or Colorado?
Oregon, Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. Grand Canyon is a prime example. Yeah. In fact, and we're getting off the subject for a minute, they now are selling the creationist Grand Canyon book in the Grand Canyon store, because they're not any longer all of the, the park people are saying, well, the Colorado carved the Grand Canyon out. No, it didn't. The flood did.
Wow.
The flood did.
All right, evidences of this.
6 evidences for a global flood. Let's go over this real quick because the Discovery Channel and the History Channel will tell you there are no evidences. Oh, yes, there are.
Okay.
And there's 6 of them. Number 1, fossils of sea creatures high above sea level due to the ocean waters having flooded over the mountains. All high mountains on this planet have fossilized sea creatures on the mountains, and that includes Mount Everest and the Himalayas and the Andes.
Wow. So how did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah,
okay, number 2, rapid burial of plants. There are extensive fossil graveyards all over this planet, and to make a fossil, you have to take an animal and quickly cover it so the air doesn't get to it, because if the air gets to it, it's going to decompose, okay? Right. But if I can quickly cover it, how does that happen? Flood, right? Then I'm going to wind up with a fossil. And there's thousands and thousands of miles of fossil graveyards all over this planet. Where'd they come from?
The flood.
That is exactly right. Number 3, rapidly deposited sediment layers spread across vast areas. The chalk beds of England, White Cliffs of Dover, go basically, as an example, from the middle United States to the Far East, Saudi Arabia. It's just that the ones at the White Cliffs of Dover are the most famous, but they're far, and they can track that across the continents because of the mineral content. In other words, the mineral content is the same in the middle United States as it is over in the Far East. So where did all that come from? If you look at some of the sandstone deposits in the Grand Canyon, where did that come from? See? Because they were all rapidly deposited. Okay?
Right.
Number 4, sediment transported long distance, and we just measured that they have tracked sediment deposition from northeast Canada all the way across the United States to southwest United States, clear into the Grand Canyon. Where did it come from? Or well, let me put it this way.
How did it get there?
How did that happen?
Yeah.
How did it get there is exactly right. Yeah. Okay. Rapid or no erosion between strata. This is number 5. If you take a look at the Grand, and the reason why the Grand Canyon is so popular is because you have 5,000 feet of rock layers that you can stand there and you can look at, see? And when you look at the rock layers in the Grand Canyon, what you see are rock strata stacked on top of each other, but they're knife-edged. In other words, you'll have a rock strata, and then very sharply you'll have another rock strata on top of that. Well, if the Grand Canyon was millions and millions of years old, as this rock strata was laid down, let's say it took another 100,000 years for the next rock strata, this should be all eroded. It's not. They're all clean, like they're stacked on top of each other almost at the same time. How does that happen? Flood.
Flood.
Which is another evidence for young and not old.
Okay. Wow.
And then lastly,
fascinating, isn't it?
number 6, many strata laid down in rapid succession. This is uplifting. There are examples all around this planet of rock layers, granite, that are what they call folded. In other words, they'll go horizontal and then they'll go vertical. How do you uplift granite rock and change it from horizontal to vertical without fracturing it?
Well, it has to be the pressure or the weight of water.
Or you immerse it in water for a year, which is what the flood was.
Oh, okay.
And then when it's wet and pliable, then as the continents are moving, your plate tectonics are moving, then as things are being moved around, as they're uplifted, they will bend because they're soft and pliable.
Wow.
Science cannot explain that.
Wow, this is wonderful.
Isn't that interesting?
It's wonderful. Again, let me just say to our viewers and listeners, all of these notes, 15 pages of them, and all of this detail is available for you here at the Dove, or John will send them to you via email. His email is hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Right.
All right, so why is 40 days significant?
I was hoping you would ask me that.
I did. It's right here. I'm supposed to ask you that question.
Because 40 days in the Bible is used to describe a trial culminating in victory.
Oh.
Would you say the flood classifies for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of examples, and I've listed them out in the notes. Israel wandered in the desert for 40 years. Moses 40 days at Mount Sinai receiving the law. Elijah 40 days at Mount Oreb. Jonah gave Nineveh 40 days to repent. Christ spent 40 days in the wilderness being tempted, and so on. And in the flood, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, Did God really have to make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights? No. He could have done it in one day. He could have done it in 1 year. He could have done it any period of time he wanted to. It's just that it's interesting that you see different trials in the Bible that culminate in victory. And so is that the reason for 40 days of rain? You know, I don't know, but it fits nicely.
Testing and 5 is victory or celebration, Pentecost. So that's what you have on there. That no, that's amazing.
Yeah. And then, of course, when Noah and his family stepped off the ark, not like in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, Hollywood didn't get this one right.
Right. There is, you know,
Did the same amount get off the ark as got on? Because in the movie that didn't happen.
That didn't happen. No, it's exactly right. You know, what's also interesting about the ark is you had 2 of every kind on the ark, right? But during the year that they were on the ark, there was no reproduction.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah, because there were 2 of every kind went on, 2 of every kind got off. So, and by the way, just a couple of real quick things. When Noah and his family got off the ark, God made 2 very interesting comments. I now give you everything for food, which means now they could eat meat. They were vegetarians before. They were vegetarians before. You know, and I just forgot the other one. Oh, animals will now be terrified of you. Oh. Which would tend to indicate, and this goes right back to...
That they commingled in the garden.
Well, they commingled, but people often wondered why a snake could have slithered or walked up to Eve and started talking to her, and it didn't bother her.
Can you imagine a talking snake?
Can you imagine a talking snake? Yeah, try that one today, right?
Well, there's some out there, I guess.
But after the flood, God tells Noah, the animals will now be terrified of you. It's interesting that when you look at this from a scientific, practical viewpoint, when I say this, I'm talking about Genesis 1 up through Genesis 9, the flood. Everything fits together when you really sit down and study it and put the words together.
Yeah.
Now, what can we apply from the flood?
Yeah.
Okay, bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Number 1, Noah was a man of faith.
Right.
If we have faith in God, we please God.
Right.
Number 2, only one door into the ark. How many ways is there to salvation?
1.
Just 1. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Only Jesus is the door to salvation. Number 3, Noah was safe in the ark. Jesus will keep us safe in eternity.
Right.
Okay. Number 4, Noah obeyed God. You know, it's interesting that when God came to Noah, he says, Noah, here's what I want you to do. I know you haven't seen rain before, but I'm going to have it rain for 40 days and 40 nights, and I'm going to flood this earth, and I'm just going to save you and your family and the animals, and I'm going to kill everything else. And what did Noah do? No problem. When do you want me to get started? And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And the Bible says, and Noah did what he was commanded to do. No sniveling, no whining. He did it. He did it.
That brings up one of my little, I want to say pet peeves. Maybe that's the wrong term to use. It seems that when God talked to people in the Old Testament, it was like you and I talking.
That's correct. God and Moses, another prime example, is exactly right.
Could you experience that today? Question for another day.
Question for another day. And
Okay.
lastly, God wants to save us.
Yeah.
John 3:16. For God so loved the world, and so on, right?
That's beautiful.
Bottom line.
That is beautiful.
Bottom line.
Thank you, John.
You bet.
That is beautiful. All right, let me just say all of this is in, again, 15 pages of notes on Noah, or movie, the movie Noah, and out of that...
How about the giveaway?
We're going to do the giveaway. So anyway, if you want the notes, let me tell you first of all, 2 things you can do. You can come by here at the Dove and get a copy, or you can email John right now at hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Correct.
All right, caller number 8 is getting this book, The Noah's Ark, Thinking Outside the Box, 776-5368. And caller number 9 is getting this book plus the DVD, 776-5368. Callers 8 and 9 will be the winners this morning. Thank you, buddy.
You bet. Thank you.
What do we do next? Do we know?
Not yet.
Oh, we don't know that. That's good. That's a good thing to do. All right, thanks, pal. We'll be
you
right
bet.
back.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776 5368.
Welcome back, and as you know, we are involved in a primary, and the ballots are out. Hopefully you got your ballot over the weekend. Most people did, and you are prayerfully looking over that ballot. By the way, there are some great resources out there for you to find out more about candidates and where they are and what they believe in and where they stand on some of the key issues. And I would encourage you to go to the Oregon Family Council website. You can Google that, Oregon Family Council, and take a look at their voters guide. They're online, and there are some of them throughout the area. I know some churches have them available, but if you have a computer, just Google Oregon Family Council, and you'll be able to go up and down almost all the counties, and not only see the candidates that are running from a statewide office, but you'll see a lot of the candidates that are running for county offices. We're trying our best through this election cycle to give you as much information as we can about issues and candidates, and we trust that you value some of those interviews that we have and take from them the information that you're looking for. I will say this, those that we have on have requested to be on, and because of that, we put them on. And so if others have not come on, it's because they have not contacted us to ask for airtime. And we're still available between now and the 20th to do that. There's a good chance that most of these ballots get put back on. Excuse me, I had a little brain thought there. The ballots get returned, I should say, within the first couple of days. Well, one of the races that has got a lot of interest in this state and actually throughout the country is the Republican race for the nomination to run against U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley. There are 5 candidates in the field. And with us today is our good friend Gayle Atteberry. She's the executive director of Oregon Right to Life, a very passionate lady in fighting on behalf of the life of the unborn. And she's been tracking one of these races, and in particular that of Dr. Monica Wehby and some of her ads, and has left Gayle upset, we'll say it that way. Hi, Gayle.
Hello, Perry. I'm delighted to be with you, even though this new technology didn't quite work.
That's okay. Looking forward to have you on Skype. You did look good there for a few moments, but... Well,
that was my solo flying. It didn't work too well.
Is that
so
what it is?
You
Well, you have a pretty red wall behind you. Wow, that was bright.
That was my dining room.
Listen, Gayle, I know you're very passionate about this race, and here's a chance for us to not only take the Senate seat back, but to put a true conservative in there. And I'm watching some of these ads, and I've done my homework. A lot of people want to know where I am with this race. And but it appears that Dr. Monica Wehby, and I want to certainly recognize her accomplishments as a medical professional, but she does not hold the values that you and I believe in. And can you comment?
Well, yes, I'd love to, because this race has stirred me deeply. She's a beautiful woman. She's an amazing surgeon, from all accounts I hear. She's a nice lady, but she's a deceitful lady. I have watched her many forums and interviews, and actually I had a personal lunch with her. Her and me and a third person is kind of mediator. And so I know well of what I speak. And the lady is not pro-life. She's very cunning in the way she describes herself. And she's saying quite often, I'm pro-life because look at all these young babies I take care of, and I've never told a woman fearing for the development of her unborn child to have an abortion. That's commendable. I love her for that. However, she thinks that the 1.2 million other babies that are dying through abortion should not be saved by trying to change the laws and making abortion illegal or even tighter to get. So I'm very, very discouraged by her, and I'm very discouraged by the way that she has been moderately successful in portraying herself as pro-life. She is not pro-life. I can just vouch for that down to my toes. And she is. It's scary the way that she's been able to carry off this charade. by people thinking that she's pro-life. She's also a little deceitful in the Obamacare. When she was very active in the OMA issues leadership, I should say, of the OMA. The OMA endorsed Obamacare, and she personally endorsed its predecessor, which was Wyden Care, brought by Senator Ron Wyden, which was a health care bill that mandated Americans buy insurance, just exactly like Obamacare. A little bit different, not exactly the same, but generally speaking, had the same components that we all dislike about Obamacare. So she's not like you and me, Perry. She's not who we want.
This is really a tough one because I've been seeing some of the ads, and I'm sure you have too, Gayle, and it does show her caring for children and operating on them at a very young age, and I get all that. And she certainly is pulling on the heartstrings. But the bottom line here is that if there was a vote to come on the U.S. Senate floor to abolish Roe versus Wade, we couldn't count on her to vote for that.
Oh, heavens no. Oh, heavens no. She has said, when she's put in a corner, which is not very often, she has said publicly she thinks abortion is a decision between a woman and her God. She has said that many times, not as many as we want her to, but she has said it. She's on record. We have her saying it. The Oregonian even knows that she's the Oregonian knows this time more than many of us, and that is that she is not pro-life. She's pro-choice.
You track every candidate in every race in this state, and I commend you for it. And that's a big task with you and your organization. But the passion of us fighting for the life of the unborn, this needs to be done. Now, you have, as a PAC, endorsed Jason Conger. Tell us why.
Yes, well, I've worked with Jason for maybe 4 or 5 years now. I know him personally. I've worked with him. I know his passion for life. He has, when we've gone to him in the state legislature, he's done literally everything we've asked him to immediately and wholeheartedly. He was a sponsor of the Oregon Right to Life's desire to put in the Unborn Child Pain Act, which would actually ban abortion after 20 weeks, which other states have been able to pass and which has been not been struck down. So we're very excited about that bill, and he was willing to put his name on that and work on that with us, along with anything that we wanted him to do, he was willing to do. He is opposed adamantly to Obamacare, and there have been attacks on him that he voted.
How do you
He's
vote
voted 5 times for Obamacare.
You know, I never could figure that out. How do you vote for Obamacare in the state legislature?
Well, thank you, Perry, very much for asking that. Nobody else seems to ask that.
I don't get that one.
It's a federal law. There's no state legislator that can vote for it. And as you know, and I know, and hopefully many of our listeners know, Obamacare forces each state to set up an insurance exchange. The feds will do that for them. Thank you very much. And in that, they're forced to do it. Now, there is one little way out of that, and that is for states to set up their own exchanges. And some states have done that around the U.S., and that's what happened. Oregon legislators, and not just Democrats and Jason, but Democrats and Republicans, decided we hate Obamacare. We do not want to be in the Obamacare federal exchanges. Yeah. We will try our best to make a better plan and make our own state exchange. Well, that's what they did. They tried to do.
And what a mess! And what a mess it is.
It was a mess.
A couple other quick questions, Gayle, before I run out of time. To be fair, I do know that Mark and Joe Ray are pro-life, but you as a PAC, you have endorsed Jason. As you know, Dr. Dobson made a strong statement about a week ago now, saying that he's just not going to allow 1 cent of his dollars to go to anything that would further the killing of the innocent and the unborn. Your thoughts on that statement?
Well, I admire, I love Dr. Dobson, and he's absolutely, totally right. Joe Ray and Mark are wonderful pro-lifers, and I don't have thing against them. The reality is, in order to beat a strong competitor like Mona Wehby, you have to narrow down who your votes are for.
Right.
If there are 3 pro-lifers in a race and we were to endorse all 3 of them, you completely disperse all your pro-life votes, and the pro-abortion person just walks away with it hands down.
Yeah.
And Jason, having worked with him and knowing his passion and knowing his ability to do things, that's why we chose him. All
right. Before I let you go, people that want to find out more information about who you endorse in other races, what should they do?
Well, it's going to be up on the website tomorrow, our OregonRightToLife.org website. For today, if they want to know right today, they can call us at 503-463-8563.
Okay, 463-8563, and that's area code 503. Thank you, Gayle, and thank you for what you and your team do.
Okay, thank you. God bless, Perry.
All right, God bless. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back and delighted to have in the studio with us today. Been looking forward to this. Ann Watson's with us, and we want to talk to her about a book. In fact, the writing of the book is miraculous. The book is miraculous. He is our hope. Ann, nice to have you.
Thanks for coming. Having me.
Wow, this is wonderful. And the quick story, you wrote this in 12 weeks? That's unheard of.
It is, especially in the publishing world, yes. Quick story, I was going to speak to a brunch, a women's brunch, and 200 of them, and I felt like the Lord was saying, okay, you're going to write your book, and then you're going to give it to all of them at the brunch, and that was 12 weeks before the brunch.
Really?
Yeah. So it was miraculous. I actually just kind of laughed out loud. That's not going to happen.
So you had a Noah moment. Or a Moses moment,
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So.
All right, a book about hope. Tell us about it.
Well, as the question on the back asks, ever felt like the lone poppy on the front cover? Isolated, vulnerable, abandoned, survivor? What we want is interaction, vigor, acceptance, significance in our world shrouded in a devastating past, uncontrollable present, and an insecure future. Where can we possibly find hope? 2 words, Jesus Christ. It's all about Him. He is our hope.
A lot of writings come from personal experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Packed with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's packed with it.
Were you hopeless at one time?
Yeah, many times I think throughout my life. But I think this book is actually a culmination of 10 years of writing and email devotion. And so, over 10 years, of course, we have lots of ups and downs. But how it began was I was sitting at my desk and I could see my coworker, and she was going through a really hard time. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to find a passage and I'm just going to send it to her, and I'm just going to put a little bit in there about what it means. And so the subject line was "He is our hope," and I just sent this little thing to her, and it encouraged her, and so she sent it to somebody, and she sent it to somebody, and before I knew it, 500 people that I knew of were getting this online devotion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how did you come up with selecting the various things? Because it's interesting the way they do it. You got part one on one side, part 2 on the other.
Well, as I went through the devotions that I had written, I could see how wordy I was, and I edited, but there were some I thought, I don't want to cut out all that. So I thought, okay, I'll just make it part 1, part 2, part 3. And so even in part 1, part 2, part 3, I edited a lot out. But I just felt like some of them just needed to be extended to another day. So.
All right, but the topics themselves, heart of obedience, the image of authentic love. I mean, these are pretty hefty titles here.
Yeah, kind of a neat story with that. at the end of each devotion that I would email out, I would sign it with something, and I knew I had to have a title for each week, and voila, there they were. As I went through actually I didn't go through all 10 years. I went through like 4 years, the most previous 4 years, and there they were. The titles were all right there.
What other than, and I don't want to minimize that, but the hope is obviously in Christ, but what are you trying to convey here to the reader? What are you trying to tell them, somebody that's in a hopeless position?
That, of course, He is our hope. Jesus is our hope. And that they don't have to give up. They don't ever have to give up. There's always a way out. There's always something that God's going to use to help them through it, whether it's His Word, whether it's another person, whether it's a TV program, whatever it is, He's always got a way for them.
Do you deal with fear in here at all?
Yes. Yes.
How?
Yes. Well, I talk about times when I had fear and how mostly God's Word helped me through it and showed me, fear doesn't come from God. So I just had to keep reminding myself. And fortunately, had great people around me, had great people praying for me, and I could say, help. I'm a little fearful right now, actually.
Oh,
but
you're doing fine. So what about things like forgiveness and confession? Do you deal with that?
Yes, that's in there too. And
is that part of our healing process?
Definitely, definitely. He just actually gave me a thing about forgiveness, that forgiveness is the salve that heals the tortured heart. So if not only do we need to forgive other people, I think we need to forgive some of the stuff that's going on in us. Of course, we can only find forgiveness in Him.
Right.
But there's a salve in that when we forgive someone else and we say, it's done. I'm done with this, whatever it is, and I'm going to let them go. I'm going to release them from this. It's not only good for them, but it's really good for me.
As you've been ministering from this level, and I know that you're a speaker and you're a Bible teacher, are you surprised how many Christians are carrying so much baggage?
Oh.
I mean, to me, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So therefore, where's our faith working in our lives? It doesn't seem to surface sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. It's sad. It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And I often give them the book and say, read the book, because it's so easy to get caught up in what's going on around us and not realizing you don't have to stay there. So yeah, I agree. It's
a lot of people want hope, but they're under a cloud of guilt for things that they have done. Even if they're a Christian and they believe that God has forgiven their past, they can't get out from underneath it. What do you say about that in the books?
Well, guilt's hard to get out from under, but not impossible, of course. It all goes back to the same thing. Where are you finding your hope? Where are you finding the resolve to get away from the guilt? I know women who have been in drugs, alcohol, other areas that are still living with guilt, who have been abused as a young child, and they're carrying that guilt. I have a friend who says you can forgive, but you don't have to forget, and you don't have to hang with those people that have abused you or hurt you. It's a process. It's not easy. It doesn't happen immediately, that's for sure.
And I think that's a key thing. I think we're looking for microwave fixes these days, you know. Are you surprised as a Bible teacher of the amount of hopelessness there is out there?
Well, I'm finding actually more and more hope in people as they open the Word, honestly.
Yeah.
There is that, of course, and I would say that the majority, a lot of those people don't ever open the Bible and say, I need to know the character of God. I need to know who He is so I can trust Him and believe that there's hope in Him. So I'm finding more and more that the more I am teaching and understanding and talking to people about, where they spend their time.
Again, the book is entitled He is Our Hope, and Ann Watson. Where can they get it?
Actually, they can go to, and I didn't bring it with me, did I? Yes, I did. They can go to mychristianbookorders.com/He is Our Hope.
Okay.
And also, I know that the Christian bookstore in Jacksonville carries it.
Okay, that's the Christian Discount Books over there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's wonderful. We're going to be giving 3 away here in just a few moments, so we'll be listening for that. And it's an incredible series of how she's done it. Parts 1, let's see, like roots and all. I don't know what that's about. I haven't read it, but you got parts 1, 2, and 3. So it kind of goes for a part 1, 2, or 3, and keeps you going. It's an incredible devotional. And if you can see, they're not very long. I commend you on this because we're in this snapshot world and we need something kind of quick, but it does spark things, doesn't it? What's been the response to your book?
Great. It's been amazing. Actually, I had a woman tell me the other day that she gave it to a friend. I don't even know if this person was a believer, which is my heart. I would love to get it in the hands of a lot of people that are lost. But a friend of hers had the front page, the preface page. She tore the preface page out of the book and she carries it with her. I'm gonna cry. She carries it with her and she reads it every day, and this gives her hope, she said. God's word is on there twice, at the beginning and at the end. I mean, it's all right there, but I'm just going, this is amazing what he's doing with his book.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you. What's next for you? What are you?
Actually, I'm finishing a novel.
Oh, really?
yeah, that started 15 years ago, and it's time to finish it. And I'm actually meeting with an editor that I've hired to help me get it ready to publish. It'll be finished this year. It's going to be out, I don't know when, so I hope to get it out. And I really believe, like, now that, definitely believe that God wants it to go into the secular world for the lost.
Really?
With the gospel message.
What's it about? Quickly, without giving it all away.
It's about a woman whose life changes completely after her husband dies.
Wow.
And how she grows up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a title yet?
I have a working title, of course. It's called Broken Acres.
Broken Acres. All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see then.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
Yeah.
Well, let me encourage you to check this out. He is Our Hope. It is out at the Christian Discount Bookstore there in Jacksonville, or online. What's that again, Ann? What's it say there? Oh, I'll get it for you. All right. Or you can go online at, see if I can read it, mychristianbookorders.com. That's mychristianbookorders.com/He is Our Hope. And you can order it there. Or, guess what we're going to do here? We're going to give away 3 of these to callers 8, 9, and 10. So the number is 541-776-5368. 541-776-5368. Callers number 8, 9, and 10 is going to win a copy of Ann's book called He is Our Hope. And there's a picture of it there on the screen. So check it out. I think you'll find it to be a real resource. And by the way, if you're ministering to somebody and they're kind of in a stage of hopelessness, hurting, got a lot of issues going on, this would be a great resource to give them.
Thank you.
Don't you think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, wonderful. Thanks, and best to you. I can't wait to see what your new, if you get to keep your working title. That's always an interesting thing to see. Between the author and the publisher, something comes out.
Yes.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.